Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode number 82 of Fraternity Foodie. I am your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. We call these episodes Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like great food to bring people together. What a treat we have for you this morning. Mindy Sopher has been a professional advisor and mentor to students in Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, and at NC State University in Raleigh. Twice been named as outstanding faculty in the communications department. She received the Association of Fraternity Advisors Distinguished Service Award and the Robert H. Schaefer Award for Lifetime Achievement. She had a graduate scholarship created in her name by her own Kappa Delta sorority and given to women entering the field of higher education. She's been named National Greek Advisor of the Year by Sigma Nu Fraternity. She had a little crystal cup named for her and given to the outstanding NC State sorority every year at homecoming. Celebrated November 20th, now known as Mindy Sopher Day in Raleigh, as proclaimed by Mayor Charles Meeker, and received the Order of the Longleaf Pine from Governor Beverly Perdue. In her free time, Mindy raises English bulldogs. She enjoys gardening and therapeutic coloring and learning something new every day. I love that attitude. And she also hopes to sponsor the Sopher Gophers women's basketball team one day. So if anybody's out there looking for a sponsor, the Sopher Gophers are coming to a town near you. Welcome to the show, Mindy.
Oh, thank you, Michael. I'll tell you. Yeah, hi, good morning, and woo, I don't know, I hope I can live up to half of that.
Oh my goodness, you are a legend, Mindy. Are you kidding
I keep
me?
telling people I'm not dead yet, you know, and so who knows what's next, right?
You are wonderful. I love everything about you. This is
Thank
fantastic. All right, so our listeners have to learn so much from you, and we're going to start with your undergraduate degree. You had that in political science from Wittenberg University, which is in Springfield, Ohio. So what made you choose Wittenberg?
That's a great story, actually. Do you have good April Fool's Days or bad April Fool's Days?
Usually pretty good.
So for about 18 years, I'd always said I wanted to go to William and Mary because my family vacationed in Williamsburg and Virginia Beach for a long time. And I had an aunt there and I had a job there if I wanted it, and I could stay with my aunt, and just that was where my heart was for my whole life. Talked to the admissions people when I was 12 and 13 and whatever. So my blinders were on, and that's where I was going to go, and I was going to be part of the tribe and then go to law school there.
Uh-huh.
And then on April Fool's Day, when I got back from my parents gave me a graduation gift to go overseas for Easter break with my classmates from school. I got back, I opened up my letter on April Fool's Day when I got home, and I thought, there's Mike's letter. They had the camera ready, and we were all excited, and they had a hat for me, and it was so fun, and it said, "You're not accepted."
Oh, no.
So my first negative experience when I hadn't gotten everything I wanted. And so I started my college search on April 1st at 3 p.m. And what I knew about any other schools, I grew up in a college town in Western Pennsylvania.
Right.
So I wanted to go to a small private liberal arts school like I grew up near. And so I started looking around and asking friends. And I mean, I really had never looked anywhere else. So my dentist daughter was a role model for me, and in student government in high school, and she went to Wittenberg, and then I had a cousin who went to Edinburgh and somebody else who went to Allegheny. So I went and looked at those schools, and I certainly wasn't going to go to school in my hometown. So not that there's anything wrong with it, but yeah, I just not for you. We had 9,000 people in town, and everybody knew what time you went to the bathroom. So I went over to Allegheny and I liked it, and I went to Denison and I liked it. I went to Ohio Wesleyan, I liked it. And then I walked onto the Wittenberg campus, Michael, and my heart just exploded. And that's all there was to it. I met the political science professor. He was phenomenal. and I was in love. There was nothing else for me. So
Yeah.
I got 4 more acceptance letters in the next couple weeks, and it was Wittenberg all the way.
Yeah, it was just that feeling you got. Well, I'm happy you got a chance to tour a bunch of campuses and find the right spot for you. Certainly sounds like it
Practice.
worked out.
Yeah, it was perfect.
That's great. And you started out as a residence hall director and then a Greek council advisor at Wittenberg.
Right.
And I remember you were telling me this story that you invited Dave Westall to campus. Of course, he rocked hazing on trial back then. So tell me about what that experience was like and how did that shape your thoughts on Greek life and making improvements to fraternity and sorority life through program?
It's really, it's a great story. I didn't even know that fraternity and sorority advising was a job.
Mhm.
And I certainly had to do a lot of convincing to my father, the marine accountant, and my mother, the nurse, that I could use a political science degree and that I could be a fraternity and sorority advisor and make a living. So I'm sure a lot of people who are listening understand that story with their family. Oh, they pay you to do that. You don't just go around and party all the time. No, really.
No.
So my Greek advisor said, let's go ahead and, take you to the conference at Bowling Green. So we took a little van load of students, and I was one of 3. And then the next year we went, and Dave spoke, Eileen Stevens spoke, Ed King spoke. I mean, the greats. That's how I cut my teeth, was just sitting at their feet going, oh, and learning everything I could from them. And when I was in charge of Greek Council, I was the advisor. Their money and their decisions, but I took all the officers up there, and they sat in the front row and did the same thing I did. And they said, let's bring them to campus. So I got to have Dave Westall at my campus, and I learned about hospitality, and I learned about what speakers need, and I learned about how to prepare the students for them. And then Dave just knocked their socks off. But I also got to make my mom's favorite and my favorite recipe for him in my little bitty 2-burner residence hall director apartment, and we sat there on the Formica table and Formica chairs and just chatted it up before he went over and talked to the students. Not what happens a lot, but it was great because I really got to know Dave, and I picked his brain about what he did and how he did it, and then I sat there in the front row again and just but I loved watching what he did for the students because he lit them on fire.
Yeah.
And we needed it. We needed it. We hadn't ever had a speaker in my 6 years there. So we started something big, and we might as well hit it off with a bang because he lit some fires. And our students really got a bigger perspective of the Greek world too, having gone to the Bowling Green conference and then hearing from Dave and just seeing that we were all Panhellenic and IFC groups at that time. So they found out about NPHC groups, and there really weren't any cultural groups, at the time, but it certainly expanded their view of just more than our little chapter and just more than our little bubble. So it was great.
That's
it was
fantastic.
really great. And I
Yeah.
thank Dave. He scared the bejesus out of a lot of those guys, and they started really talking together about things that they could do as alternatives for their new member program. And it was pretty good.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm still picking Dave's brain all the time, so that goes on a regular basis for me.
The good news, you both relate to each other scapularly.
Yes.
And that he still has a brain left after having it picked by so many people is also a good thing. So here's to Dave.
Here's to Dave. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Now, you were a chapter resident advisor for Sigma Nu at NC State for 6 years.
Actually, 5.
5 years. Okay, 5 years. All right. So what was that like, living with the Brothers of Sigma Nu and providing academic and advising support to that chapter for 5 years?
I know you're just asking me because you're jealous.
Yes.
Most people are when they find out that I got to live with 37 guys of a chapter of about 125. So when we ate, it was a long line. And sometimes they actually let me go ahead. But my favorite part, besides getting to know the men for truly who they were, my favorite part was when guests would come in, or parents would walk in the door, or young women would come over to visit, or recruits would come in, or even the fire marshal, when he would come in, I'd get all excited because almost every single one would walk in the door and they would say, "Wow, this doesn't look like a fraternity house." And I'd say, "That says more about you than it does about us." Or they'd say, "Wow, this doesn't smell like a frat house." And I would say, "First of all, we don't use the 4-letter F word here. And secondly, I'm really glad to hear you say that," right? So that was that made me really proud. They had a beautiful new home. I was there the day they cut the ribbon, and they are, they've been a really strong chapter for a long time, and a lot of great alums, and a lot of history, past national president from there, a couple of staff members from there. And pardon me, they treated me very, very well. And it was really an honor to serve them. And that was after I had won the national award. That was a long time before. So it was from my work at the other 3 chapters that I'd worked with. But there were some interesting days. I would sleep through almost everything except women who would be upstairs in the room above mine and be wearing high heels, and the brother had a tile floor. So other than that, they improved their GPA while I was there, and they knew that I was there to be an advisor for that. For the guys that engaged with me, we did a lot of resume writing, proofing, cover letter, interview prep, that sort of thing. And for the guys that utilize my services, I'm still in touch with a lot of them. I've been to a baby shower, a couple weddings, some graduation from med school or law school and that sort of thing. And since friends are the family we build for ourselves, I feel like I found some family members at Sigma Nu, and I miss being there, but it was a good experience, and I feel very blessed for having had that opportunity to volunteer as their live-in chapter resident advisor, faculty in residence, house mom, whatever they wanted to call me, and it was really an honor.
Yeah, I know Sigma Nu feels that they're blessed to have you too.
Well, it was a good relationship.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. So for over 9 years, you worked as faculty and an academic advisor to help new students who are in transition, ones who might be seeking new majors, or like many are just undecided about their future. So how do you determine the right path for these students? Because I'm sure there are plenty of students that are listening to the show right now that are unsure if they are on the right path, and they probably question their direction on a daily basis.
I do too. I don't know if you've ever had second thoughts about you've changed your career, right?
I certainly have. I went to school for accounting,
There you go.
and I did accounting for many years. I rose to the level of chief financial officer. And then I woke up one day and said, I don't want to do debits and credits anymore. Like, I can't, I'm too creative. And, with debits and credits, it's either a debit or a credit. There is nothing in the middle. And so for me, I felt stifled in that role. And that's when I started looking to other alternatives. And then, I figured it was time to pay it back to fraternity and sorority life. So I started getting involved with that. And before you know it, I found this passion of speaking to students. And that's what I love to do. But you're right, it changed along the way.
Funny how things happen.
Yeah.
Well, I would say I don't find the right path. I provide lots of maps and lots of directional signs and lots of warning signs.
Okay.
Okay. So I start out, I just did this last night with a student. I start out by telling them to take a big deep breath. Because usually when students are feeling anxious about their future, it's like, So stop, take a big deep breath. Then I listen a lot. My grandmother said, you got 2 of these and 1 of these, so you should use this twice as much at least. So I listen a lot. And then I share a couple basic things. I tell them that they're on a boulevard. It's not a train track with an end. It's a boulevard. So a boulevard has lots of lanes. It's got a little grass in the middle. It's got another couple lanes going the other way, or at least 2 main lanes and some parking on the side. And it turns either right or left. And you can stop on the boulevard for a little while and park there if you want to. Or you can go up there and turn around and go back the other way. So there's lots of different directions. There's lots of different speeds on a boulevard. On a train, you're pretty much chugging about the same. You might stop now and then, but you're still going the same way. So on a boulevard, you can keep going the same way if you want to. You can even change cars or get a taxi when you're on a boulevard, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can walk a little bit if you want to on a boulevard. So there's lots of different things. And a lot of students come in, it's like, I'm going to be an accounting major and I'm going to be an accountant and then I'm going to retire, right? With my gold watch and my rocking chair, and that's the way it's going to be.
Uh-huh.
Might have been when grandpa was around or great grandpa, but it's not so much anymore. I mean, back then women had the choice of what? Mom, teacher, nurse, maybe, or something. Oddly, a woman might do something else, but so it's not that way anymore. And there's careers out there that haven't even been created. Like, people are making more money than me skateboarding, right?
Yeah.
And I've got students who are in the 6 figures who are playing poker on their computer. Okay, right? I'm not good at it. I wouldn't do that, but who knew? And now with COVID, how many millions of different jobs have come up that weren't there before because we need people to take care of problem solving with COVID. So anyway, it's a boulevard. And average folks change majors about 2.83 times, average, around college students. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Even if mom and dad aren't happy about that, that doesn't mean we can't get you out of here in 4 years if you work with us.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to stay a little bit more, you're an overachiever, and we got plans for that too if you want. And then people who are graduating, when these students are graduating in this generation, are going to change their careers 4.5 to 5 times. Careers, not just jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be an accountant for 4 different companies, or you could be an accountant, then you could go to med school, and then you come back and you enlist in the Marine Corps at 32. And then if you want to, when you're done with that, they'll pay for law school for you and you can get another degree because you just love to study, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you might decide to partner with somebody in business or in family. You might have children. You might have a relative who gets sick and you need to take care of them, or you might get sick and need to switch what you're doing. Or maybe your company, like Jimmy John's or Steinmart, closes down, so there's nobody to work for anymore. So you got to find something new to do, and you follow a passion, or you create your own, or you're like Jess Ekstrom and make your own company when you're 17. So lots of options. And sometimes that gets them even more nervous. So I say, okay, time to take a big deep breath again. All right. I advise them to use, use the campus career people, because they've already paid for it and they're people who know what the heck they're doing. I advise them to take assessments like Focus 2 and the MBTI, or the Strong Interest Inventory, or Clifton Strengths Finder. There's tons out there. The Fairy Princess of Disney doesn't quite cut it as far as an assessment is concerned, like which Harry Potter character are you? That's not quite what we're talking about when it comes to careers, but you know. So do some of those assessments, and then find people, even if you have to go to the phone book or Google to phone book. What's that? Yeah, that's right. This is old folks week, right? I forgot. Wherever, to find somebody who does what you think you might want to do and do an information interview with them. What do people like to talk about the most? Right?
Yes, themselves, sure.
So I give them a template for that, but what kind of questions do you need to have answered? What do you wish you would have done in school? What gets you up to go to work every day or open up your computer every day? What are the people like that you work with? Or do you work with people, or do you work with things? What kind of career advancement, what did you do to get into it? Those kinds of things, and just let people talk. Can I have an hour of your time? Tell me all about it. Then I also tell them to use a thing called the Occupational Outlook Handbook. That and ONET are two tremendous sources for jobs, and also to tell you about the jobs. They have everything from minimum salary to what it takes to get in, to best places to go to train, to challenges and job descriptions, and the average day for this kind of person doing this kind of job is great resources. And then I say, go to your homework, come back, and we'll talk again. And then they usually say, okay, and they cry, or okay, and they leave. And about half of them come back and we talk some more. And then half of those I end up writing recommendations for jobs. So,
that's fantastic. I can tell right away that you are an excellent, excellent academic advisor. And man, if I could get all of our student listeners to come in and talk to you to see if they're on the right path or not, I mean, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing?
God bless them, I'll tell you. Well, I'll give you my link to my advising time, and
yes.
So I'm happy to help. Always happy to help.
Absolutely. You should charge for your time. But man, there's a lot of students that are just unsure, and I can see very clearly that you are a wonderful resource for them. That's all I'm going to say.
Sharing is caring, Michael.
That's great. So, all right. So here's the deal. You beat cancer 4 times. Now, my father, he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is cancer of the blood, many years ago. Just last week, he started chemo treatment for the first time in his life. I'm hoping that he can beat cancer too. Now, what advice do you have for him and other people who are battling this demon? Because clearly, you know how to slay the dragon.
Well, you're, again, very gracious to me. I want to ask you about your dad and how he's doing with it all.
You know, he's doing all right. They have, with the chemotherapy now, they actually give him a shot, okay? And this shot only is maybe like 3 or 4 minutes and you're done. So in terms of the time that it takes and the type of chemotherapy that he's getting, I think it's very easy and very convenient today as opposed to in the past. However, the first shot that he got was powerful. And I don't think he expected the kind of reaction that he got, that his body gave him. He felt nauseous, he felt sick, and he was scheduled to get his second shot this past Monday of this week, but his doctor basically said, listen, you're not feeling well right now. We're gonna skip a week and come back and see me next week, and let's see how you're feeling then. So we're gonna wait and see, you know, how he does, but I know that he was not expecting it to be as powerful as it was.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about that. People talk about go out and kick cancer's ass, and the fact is a lot of times it kicks ours.
Yeah.
But my dear friend who has since passed, Coach K. Yao, always said, when cancer kicks you, make sure it kicks you forward.
Yeah.
And she was always very hopeful, and we miss her very much. She was the women's basketball coach at NC State and the Olympic coach a few times. She inspired me, and I think that's one piece of advice that I give to folks is find a mentor, just like I would a student, you know, find a mentor in the cancer world. And there's plenty there. I'm sure when your dad goes to get a shot, there will be other people there getting shots. And it's something you have in common. You don't have to talk about it. You can talk about it, but at least people get it. No offense to anybody who hasn't had it, but somebody that shares the experience. I have been asked to talk about it a lot, excuse me. And cancer doesn't define me. That's the first important part about that. And by the way, I need to update my bio because I've now had it
5 times.
But it's not a contest, and it's not a club you want to join. So please don't get anxious about that. But yeah. So my dad had it. My grandmother had it. She passed away before I was around. My mom had it, and it took both my parents, two different kinds of cancers. My dad had two different kinds of cancers. My mom had one, but it was three. And then none of them had the kind I got, which is really weird. Anyway, when people ask me, what can I tell, what can I do for my mom, or how can I help a friend, or what do I do now that I know I've got it?
Mm-hmm.
We tend to want to suck up all the information we can, and sometimes that overwhelms us. So pace yourself, that's one thing. And I would say, well, I put together a cheat sheet, and I'll go ahead and send that to you so you can use it for your dad. I've got a top 10 list of things they don't tell you when you get diagnosed, and most of those are pretty reality. And then every now and then you get a real savvy doctor who looks at your heart a little bit more than your cancer. And I had one of those. So there's two things on the list that he told me. And I still see him. He's a great guy who beat cancer himself. The other thing is what to do to help people who do have cancer, right? Because I know you feel helpless, right?
Of course.
So a couple of those I'll just tell you is listen, use my grandmother's advice, listen. And if you're a cancer survivor, you are the day you're diagnosed, listen to yourself. Tell your dad to listen to himself and his body and pay attention to what it needs. And it's a great way to get to know yourself better. It's not my favorite way, but I really got to know myself a lot better. And my body, my mind, and my spirit, all of me, I really listened to myself. So you as a co-survivor and dad as a survivor, listen and pay attention to that, because your body will tell you things. So will your mind, and so will your spirit. Number 2, ask for what you need. I need to be alone. I need Cheetos. I need cuddle with the cat. One that won't make me allergy prone. This is what I need. And it's hard for us humans to do that, especially us givers. And once I finally got over that was a big hump for me. It was okay. It was okay. I mean, I had people changing dressings for me, and I was like, what? But I needed it because I couldn't do it. I couldn't cook some days. I needed rides to the doctor's office. Some of my Chamber of Commerce friends put together a little ride share thing for me, and the nurses got a kick out of it because they would say, what handsome guy is bringing Mindy to chemo today, and what kind of car does he have? So I'd be in a Jaguar one day, and I'd be in a Mercedes the next day, and I was in a Hummer BMW one day. It was like a parade. It was really fun. They all got a kick out of it. I did too. I didn't mind. I was running around with handsome guys in nice cars.
Sure.
What a reputation. The other thing is have somebody else handle the money, because health issues like cancer can cause depression. I am honest about that. I became depressed and got treatment for it, and that was really helpful. But the money thing was really overwhelming to me. My bills were, I stopped counting at $98,000 that I was going to pay out of my pocket. And that just, I couldn't even fathom. So I had somebody else handle that for me. And maybe you as an accountant, son, maybe that's something your dad could use. I'm not saying let him tell you, but certainly the whole, always take somebody with you so they can take notes, because you don't always understand. I did not always understand or was able to comprehend everything that the doctor said. Either have your point person or you, cancer survivor, start a Caring Bridge or another one of those accounts, because people care about a sick person. And people care about a person. Then when they get sick, they express that care. And sometimes it's just too overwhelming and exhausting to tell the story again and again and again. And people are just being nice and showing they care, but there's only so much energy. So having a website that you can put everything down and people can log into when they want to and interact on its choice about time.
Right.
And energy. It's really exhausting. 2 more things. Tell people that you love them if you have cancer. And if you're a co-survivor, tell the person who has cancer that you love them again, and tell them again, and tell them again. And if they tell you to stop, then stop. But it's really important. And that was medicine for me. And I know it's been medicine for a lot of other people. So tell them, tell them, tell them. And then I got 5. I'm lucky enough to have 5 fingers on each hand and 5 toes on each foot. So I always tried to remember to keep 5 things around me that brought me joy. Always 5 things, because I could grab it with my hand, and I could, if I was on my drugs or whatever, I could look at my fingers and remember those 5 things. Mm-hmm. So Cheetos, I mentioned before, that's my drug, man. Without Cheetos, I'd be a 98-pound weakling. But whatever those 5 things are, keep them handy, use them. 5 things that bring joy on a regular basis. Use them, eat them, play them, hug them, whatever. But keep those 5 things around, and it's something that you can remember easily. Anyway, I'll send you those, and you can share them as you wish. But my prayers are with your pop, and it will be, I call cancer a gift, because I've learned so much about myself and about the world and other people. I hope it's a gift for him.
I think it is. You know, it really kind of forced him to kind of relook at his life. I mean, he immediately retired and then started traveling the world, and he's gone to places that nobody has gone to. I mean, he went to Easter Island. Who gets to Easter Island? Nobody. Madagascar, you know, he goes places that nobody gets to. So I think that has really kind of, just like you said, has kind of been a blessing and kind of put all of the priorities in the right place. And so now, you know, he got to travel the world, which is fantastic. Now he's really into family trees. And so he actually built out his family tree, and then now he's sharing that with his granddaughter, my daughter, and we're doing that on Zoom so he can record everything and talk about everybody in the family, because it's really fascinating history.
Oh, that's priceless.
And it's priceless, and we got it on video, and then the interaction between my dad and my daughter, it's fantastic. So it's a blessing.
Warms my heart.
Yeah. It's definitely a blessing. Well, thank you
I'm
so
glad
much.
to hear that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's important for people to hear, and it's great advice for people that are in similar types of situations. And boy, am I glad that you beat cancer 5 times. I am so glad for that. That is just amazing, amazing stuff.
I also made a very significant contribution to Duke University Research Hospital. It was called All My Girly Parts. Yeah, not financial, it was physical, but they've done a lot of tests on that, and I have to tell you, they've gotten some good results by doing research. So that's another suggestion I'd make. There's lots of clinical trials that'll take care of money and also research. So if there's opportunities for that, I always recommend that.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's so important. Now, you know, fraternity and sorority life is getting questioned on a daily basis in the media in terms of relevance and even their existence today.
Michael, is that new?
No, it's been going on since, you know, the beginning of time.
I just wanted to check.
You know, but I chronicle this stuff, as you know. I mean, I read these articles every single day, and I share them with professionals because I think it's our obligation to know what's being said, although, you know, the negative stuff outweighs the positive stuff.
Yeah, and we really appreciate your work to share all of that too. You are the lightning rod for picking up stuff, and really appreciate that. You're keeping all of us on our toes.
I do it, you know, listen, I'm glad to do it. I think it's helpful for me, so that way I can look back at these stories and figure out what's going on around the campus. And then that way, when I'm talking to advisors, I know clearly what is happening on every campus in the country. So selfishly, I'm kind of doing it for me. And I'm also doing it because we just, as a whole, we need to understand what's being said about fraternity and sorority life all over the country. Sometimes it's not pleasant, and I admit that. I know that sometimes it's hard because, you know, you keep getting hit, and how many times are you going to get hit before you say enough, right? And I think it can be overwhelming for the students as well, who are trying their best to change their narrative. They're doing wonderful work. You see it firsthand, whether it be with Sigma Nu or
All the
Kappa
time.
Delta or all the time, right? So what is your advice to college students that might feel defeated when they read what the naysayers have to say?
Well, the bad news is that I really believe that some of our chapters and some of our organizations will close down. And that I can't see how some will survive, especially after the pandemic. So that's the sad part, and I don't want that to happen, but I think that's going to be reality.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, those who have, like you and I, sadness about that, and students who are having that defeated feeling, two things that I use as a mantra, pardon me, to keep me going, is that old look to your left, look to the right, two of you, one of you won't be here at the end, the old dean speech during
Yes,
orientation,
I got that speech.
right? I think about that every day because that's what my dean said back in 1902. But why would one survive and one not? I mean, it's individual choices that individuals make, and that's either for my own personal behavior and thought and effort, or it's because I allow my brother or my sister to make choices and not hold him or her accountable for those choices. And I would hold them accountable not for my benefit, but because I love them and because I made a promise a long time ago that I would do that. And I know that sounds corny to some people, and that's okay if it does. But when I did it, I wasn't drunk and I wasn't exhausted. I was serious. And I said the same thing that hundreds of thousands of women have said before me, and I meant it. And everybody in the room with me meant it. And we weren't drunk or exhausted or hazed into it or any of those kinds of things. So my expectation is that people aren't doing this at gunpoint, so they probably should mean it. Well, I expect them to mean it. So because I care about that person and that promise, then I have a responsibility to hold them accountable. And they have a responsibility to hold me accountable, right? Our founders, many of them, when they wrote what they wrote it in an action verb format. And rather than a destination, they wrote it as a journey, right? So mine, let us strive for, that is constant. It's not over, it's constant. And I'm never going to get there, but I got to keep working on it. And pardon me, most organizations have some love in there somewhere, and that's another reason that we have to have hope. Love gives us hope. The love we get from our brothers and our sisters that we haven't even met yet. Some of those people that you're putting on the website, it's not all bad news, that's for darn sure. So there'll be a Sigma Pi in Tennessee and a Sigma Pi in California, and one of them makes a mistake and the other one is rocking the world and living exactly like you should be. Right? I make mistakes every day. As a matter of fact, I tell my students all the time, I'm just sharing my humanity and giving myself another opportunity to learn more. So because I look at it with that attitude, I continue to try to be a person who lives by what I say I am. I also say, what if I'm the only Kappa Delta that anybody that I run into knows? Then they're going to understand and see Kappa Delta through what they see in me.
Right.
So that is also striving to be honorable, beautiful, and do the highest effort. You remember in the acceptance speech that I gave at the Association of Fraternity Advisors annual meeting, our founders really don't care if we remember their names. I mean, that's not why they got into it, like, I'm so great, I'm this founder. But they care if we remember their values and what they were trying to do. I should have added and live by them every day, right?
Mhm.
So I've continued to add that when I say that quote. But you know, the Jimmy John's shop across from our building on campus closed last month.
Mhm.
That place was busy every hour of every day it was open before COVID. Jimmy John's closed? They were delivering here all the time. You know, there's going to be chapters like that that are good and busy and doing the right things, and circumstances, and we know one person can make that happen. Circumstances are going to come around, and tolerance is not there anymore. There's the movements to do away with Greek communities, and you know, housing that isn't getting paid for because people aren't in the building. But if you, I don't mean to be corny, but if we look back to why our founders created our organizations in the first place, some of it was because they had a mutual friendship, a lot of that.
Mhm.
They believed in the same sort of thing. They had an issue like women's suffrage or integration of religions and multi-ethnicities. They believed in stopping hazing. There was an issue that they rallied around, or there was a desire to promote higher levels of scholarship. Or it was just some friends who just started it, or it was a culture they wanted to celebrate, or it was because those white guys wouldn't let us black guys into their group, right?
Mhm.
They were issues, and they were persons caring about persons. So if we're reduced to only that because we don't have a house, we can't have the parties, we can't have recruitment, we can't have the service, we're still students and we're still humans, and we still need to care about each other, and we still need to be cared about.
Mhm.
And those, when it's reduced down, as many of us are sitting in our homes, just, you know, washing, doing the laundry and brushing our teeth and sometimes putting on pants, when it's reduced to the lowest common denominator, it's that relationship. It's really all about relationships.
Mhm.
So those people who focus on that and try and build each other up will be ones who survive.
Amen.
Let the rest of the crap go. Be a
Right.
good student, be a good citizen, be a good, loving, caring friend. Those are the ones that are going to survive.
Yeah. I was teaching recruitment last night on Zoom, of course, to the
Thank
students
you.
at Trinity University in San Antonio, and I said to them, the first question that I opened up with is, you know, what's hard about recruitment right now during COVID-19? And the most popular answer is not going to surprise you, that we can't have parties and we can't have events. And I said, it's all about the relationships, folks.
Yeah.
That's it. It's the relationships. That's why you joined your organization. I said, nobody on this call right now joined because of the big event. It was the relationship that mattered to you.
Are you sure it wasn't the pink napkins and the turtle parfait?
No, nobody cares. Oh, just,
We hope so, Michael. Not everybody joined because we did. That's for the same reason we did.
yeah.
And I really think we have to remember that. Most of us in the business are idealists,
Yes, that's true.
right? And did look
Yeah.
at values, but I'll tell you what, the woman I lived with in the sorority house joined because she could have a screwdriver or a Bloody Mary in the house in the morning, drive to class with it, and come back and pass out. And that's why she joined,
Oh,
because she
boy.
couldn't do that in the residence hall.
Yeah.
Not that she was supposed to be doing it in the house,
Right.
right? Said the woman who brought her to Sanders. But yeah, not everybody joined for the same reason that you and I did.
Yeah.
I talked to the national president of Delta Upsilon, who's a
Mhm.
good friend of mine, and God bless him, he's taught me so much. And he said, why are guys doing X behavior
Yeah.
in the fraternity house or in the
Mhm.
fraternity?
Mhm.
And I said, Rick, not everybody was raised like you were raised, or like I was raised, or like we were brought into our organization.
Mhm.
And not all alumni, not all presidents, and not all house corporation boards are like your experience and my experience, right? So
Mhm.
if we keep that kind of context and remember that and treat each one of them, I mean, they're college students. We got to take what we get.
Right.
We can't recruit Joe Smith, the junior in high school over there, because he's still in high school, and we can't run our service project with Mr. Jones from the Heart Association because he works for the Heart Association and he's not enrolled in school. Right? If he's an alum, he can be an advisor. But you know, I got a bunch of accounting majors, I got a bunch of finance majors, and I got one education kid. And the rest are in engineering. That's what I get to work with.
Right.
Right. So what their priorities are and what they're interested in, that's what we have to work with.
Yeah.
And I promised you, those guys that I lived with did not all join for love, honor, and truth. Okay.
Yeah, I'm an idealist. No question.
Well, and I am too.
Yeah.
But if we're out there doing it, we have to remember that. It's like TJ's 3 groups, right?
Yeah, they are who they are, right?
Yeah, they are who they are. So we got to work with what we got.
We got to work with what we got. So,
and
I mean, yeah, we agree that fraternity brothers and sorority sisters clearly are not always taking care of each other. And you can see that with the hazing cases that are happening around the country, alcohol and drug abuse that happens within fraternity and sorority houses, even sexual assault cases. So now the masks, right? These masks that we have to wear have become a polarizing thing during COVID-19, right? Whether I'm going to wear this mask or not. So how do we build empathy on college campuses for harm prevention?
I really wanted a good magic wand answer for that. And I think it goes back to the question I just answered. You know, writing a policy for 6,000 people and expecting it to work, you know, it's like the president says this is the way the whole nation is going to go. Whether you like the guy or not, that's an impossible thing to have happen, right? So if I'm having problems with my sister who's drinking screwdrivers before she goes and gets in her car and goes to class at 9 o'clock in the morning, I need to talk to her. I don't need to make a chapter policy about, you know, whatever. I need to talk to her because I care about her. Because I care about the chapter. Because she got a beautiful car and I want to borrow it sometime. And if she wrecks that thing into a tree, I'm being silly, but it's really because I care. And I want her to graduate, you know, and I don't want her to get arrested. And I don't want more people drinking screwdrivers in the house before they go to class and get in their car at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So, honestly, a lot of it goes back to recruitment. A lot of it goes back to new member education. The whole system has kinks in it, and one thing isn't going to solve it. One thing is not going to solve it. So I take in each individual as they come, and I try and find how I can refer, assist, support, and some I'm not the person to do it, right? I realize that maybe the brother or the mother, or maybe not somebody till he gets fired from his job for acting like that. I may not have the resources to do it, but I'm a lover, and again, since that's a key element to most of our organizations, is that relationship, sisterhood, whatever. Love's in there somewhere, brotherhood, love's in there somewhere. Passion around a cause is in there somewhere. Maybe the cause is partying and it's shifted from when it was originally, but somewhere in there, we have a lot more in common than we do different, because somewhere in there is that relationship. So you hit the nail on the head, relationships. When I do my Getting to the Heart of Hazing program, that's what I really talk about. We don't have time for it because we care about each other. We don't want any harm to come to our friends, so we don't haze. We find the better way to build the better man through that relationship, through caring more than about them than we do about ourselves, our own pleasure, or because I did it. And we try and find better ways to get the job accomplished. Use our resources. And we reach out the hand of friendship and introduce them to other people and build the relationship. But I'm not going to treat you the same way as I treat your wife or your dad, right? There'll be some commonalities, but if I really want to get to know you, I'll take an interest in you and find out what you're interested in.
Right.
And not make that policy for all 6,000 students to say whatever. I'll model, I'll refer, I'll say I care.
Got it. Well, I think you're right. I also think that what you said before, that it also does go back to recruitment too, the people that we're bringing in, right? So whether it's the university or it's the fraternity or sorority, there has to be, somebody that is the gatekeeper that says, do you belong here or do you not belong here? And the only way you can do that is by really getting to know the students. And, sometimes I look at the system and I wonder, maybe it's a system issue. At Trinity University in San Antonio, where I was working last night, they, basically have the entire fall semester to get to know all of the students, and they won't actually bring them in until the spring. Now, I love, the ability for fraternities and sororities to recruit all year long. I really believe in that. I know the fraternity was very good for me academically. And so the sooner I get acclimated, the better, because I can start growing that much faster. So I'm all for letting people come into organizations when they're ready, and that could be first semester, second semester, whenever. But at Trinity, what I will say is that they take the entire fall semester to really get to know these men and women before they give them invitations, and they know their people much better on that campus than some of the others. And so they, in full confidence, can give that bid or invitation to join after knowing them for a full semester. And you can see that they really know their brothers and sisters really, really well. So
I joined in January. That was the way my campus was.
Yes.
And when I went to other campuses, I thought, oh, of course, that's the only way to do it. But I'll flip the switch and say, if we did recruitment right and really showed our stuff in real terms, in one-on-one, and established relationships, because it really is all about relationships, not or if we did recruitment right, parents and colleges, I believe, would want us to do recruitment right away, because the relationships and the potential for academic success and retention and service and all those other, and balancing and time management, if we did it right, and our new member programs were about enhancing the success of that individual person, not about learning what I had to learn or running my errands or those kinds of things, really about their personal success, colleges would want us to recruit and have people join right away.
Yeah.
But we messed that up, and we're not doing it right in many, 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 many cases. And school, which is job one, like it or not, is left out of the equation of many of our organizations. Which doesn't sound like she's the academic advisor, right? If I'm not even given a chance to meet the new members until after they've initiated, something's gone wrong somewhere, right? Because no offense, whether you like it or not, most people come to college to learn and get a degree and go to class. Most, whether they want to admit it or not.
Right.
Right? And that's the pathway to a job or grad school. I knew some people who went for their MRS degree, granted. Some people go to get out of the house. Some people go because it's all they know. I get that, and we have to deal with that too. But because our new member programs potentially are about the success of the student, the human, the growth, the frontal lobe development, and the citizenship development, and all the rest of that stuff to help make them into a better person, that's the college goal too. That's the university's goal too. And the resources are already there, and the programs are already set up, and you're paying for them. So there's a lot on, it doesn't matter how big your school is, there's still people on campus that want to do that. And if the partnerships were stronger, the knowledge and the trust were stronger, campuses would want Greeks to get their people in right away.
100%. We have to work on those connections. I agree completely. Especially during COVID-19. I mean, I'm sure the university at Trinity in San Antonio, they want to keep their students there. They don't want them bored. Many of the students are not even allowed to be on campus because of
Right.
COVID-19.
Right.
So what better way to anchor them to the campus than to get them to join Greek life in their first semester, because they're not going to go anywhere with that support structure surrounding them. So I really felt as, hey, maybe this is a great time to try to bring back that fall recruitment.
Wow.
It would be a great time to do it, because Greeks are great at building rapport with other students, right? So anyway, but yeah, man, oh man.
But we wax poetic. You'd think we're over 30 or something.
Now, Mindy, your awards and your fan club is very extensive. All right. We went through some of that in the beginning. And I have to ask you this question. What is the legacy that you are leaving to all of fraternity and sorority life?
Now you're going to get me choked up. So my sorority chose to create that graduate scholarship. Tremendous honor. I'm an educator, and they're going to allow and support other women going into the field. So that's their choice to do that, and nothing could have shocked or honored me more. So thank you, Kappa Delta, for putting women out there like Jennifer Jameson and others who have earned graduate work through that. But I would say what I see other than that is the connections that I made with people and the encouragement for them to get to know other people. I'm the teacher that doesn't let students sit in the same seat every class. I make them sit in a different seat every class, or they don't get credit for being there when we're face-to-face, okay? So they have to sit with different people. They meet different people. When I go to a conference, I'm the one that plops down in the middle of a group of folks that don't know me and say, hi, who are you? Tell me your story, right? At the conference, when I gave my acceptance speech, I apologized to the people in the room that I didn't know because I hadn't worked hard enough to meet them yet, because I'm going to grow from them. If they think they've grown by meeting me, great, but I want to learn from them. There are tremendous people in the room, and I screwed up because I didn't know a lot of people in the room yet. So I try to add value by connecting other people. And when I'm sitting there at that dinner table with people I've never met before, from groups I don't know and places I've never heard of, oh, maybe you could connect with this person. So on my tombstone, my brother said I'm going to have an extension cord. My name might not be there, but there'll be an extension cord there. I told him I'm not going to have a tombstone, so he's going to have to throw it in the ocean or something. But that, I think, is my legacy, is just connecting people. And I believe that grows momentum, that grows relationships, that love in its various forms comes out of that, and beautiful things can happen when resources are put together with resources, which people are, and when good energy is put together with other energy, and that builds more energy. So long story short, I believe my legacy will be connecting people.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. That's a wonderful legacy to have. I'm blessed to know you, and I'm so glad that we spent this time here together. I consider myself very lucky for that. As you know, we love good food here at Fraternity Foodie. So if I'm speaking at NC State one day, let's say COVID is gone and I'm back on stages, where should I go locally for a meal at NC State?
Well, I wrote you a list of all the schools I worked at and all the best places to eat. Because when a consultant would come in from a fraternity or sorority, if they had the time, I would take them to lunch or dinner.
That's wonderful.
At my favorite Greasy Spoon or Dive or whatever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Button Cafe got knocked down a couple years ago in Memphis, but that's one you got to go to. But it's not there anymore. So when you make it to NC State to speak to the Wolfpack,
yes,
or our local schools in the neighborhood, you'll give me a buzz.
Yes.
And we will either go to Old Time Barbecue, which is a little hole in the wall with an orange awning next to the railroad tracks.
Okay. I
And
like
you'll
that.
have the best hush puppies and really darn good barbecue and some wild breakfasts with some cured out in the back bacon. Tremendous.
Delicious.
Ask TJ, I took him there once. Old Time, TYMEBARBEQ barbecue.
All right.
Or we'll go to, if we're going to step it up a little bit, we'll go to Beasley's Chicken and Waffles downtown and sit in the window. And you'll get 90% of a chicken and a waffle as big as your head. And if we're really going high class and you're paying, then we're going to the Angus barn for the best steak in town and baked potatoes as big as your head. Okay. And if we're just going for lunch, I'll take you to Cafe Carolina. That's my go-to place.
Well, next time I'm in town, we are going to be stepping it up. I am going to be paying, and we are going for steaks and potatoes.
And I'll pay for lunch, so we got to have 2 meals. Okay?
All right, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Or breakfast. We'll do barbecue at the breakfast place. Breakfast at the barbecue place.
Hey, I'm a Nashville guy. I'll have barbecue anywhere. So that sounds wonderful to me. That sounds really good. So Mindy, if our listeners, let's say they love this conversation, I know they will. So they want to bring you to their campus to speak to their fraternity or sorority community. I'm sure we could arrange for that online during COVID. Maybe they want to follow you on social media. Who knows? Where should they go to contact you?
I would say that I'm a real Facebook junkie, and I've got my personal page has a lot of good stuff on it, but I have a class page for my nonprofit leadership and development class. It's been going for 13 years, and we have hundreds of people who are either former students or community partners or our friends. So the COM 466 alumni and fans of NCSU's nonprofit leadership and development class is a rockin' page because we have jobs posted there. People have gotten jobs, internships. We've got lots of educational pieces. Some of your articles have been posted there, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, about leadership. So that's one really fun place for people who are still into Facebook. I'm an Instagrammer. I don't post as much as I should, but I'm working on that. And I'm a Twitter person, and I'm on there pretty regularly. It's Mindy BKD. Julie Johnson told me that's one thing people know about me, that I'm a Kappa Delta. And yeah, Mindy BKD. Beth is my middle name, not BITCH, which some people thought my middle name was, but that's okay.
I don't believe that.
The life of a Greek advisor. Or you can call Casey or check on my speaking information for College for Life on the website.
That's
fantastic. Plus, I'm the only faculty member who's named Mindy at NC State, so you can always find me there.
There you go.
Thank you so much for asking and letting me babble and letting me think about these things and letting me get to know you better. Please know that my prayers are for your pop.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your listeners and the opportunity to talk a little bit about one of my favorite passions, fraternity and sorority life.
That is fantastic. We are all blessed to be in your presence. Thank you so much for everything that you've done, all the connections, the information, for being a great listener, for the advice. I mean, wow, everything in this episode.
You're sweet.
It's fantastic. And to our listeners, if you like this, please like it and share it. We want Mindy to get all over the world with this interview. And thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And we hope to see you on the next episode of Fraternity Foodie. Bye for now.